It is now time to experience the buzz, a podcast that takes an inside look at amazing people doing amazing things. Get ready for some great conversation that will be fascinating, educational, and inspiring. We will also leave room to help small businesses in a big way. Now, here's your host, entrepreneur Steve Buzzard.
Hello, everyone. It is another episode of Experience the Buzz. Want to welcome you in. I'm feeling Mickey today as we get ready for episode number 88. And today, if you don't mind, we are talking weddings. I have been a wedding DJ for about 15 or 16 years and have had the opportunity to work with amazing people. One of those amazing people is definitely Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings. Wedding management or wedding coordinator, whatever you want to say, wedding planner. She is that and then some. And I love working with her and had the opportunity a few years ago to meet her. And we now have partnered and she's referred me to other weddings. It has been great. Today, we peel back the curtain. So whether you're out there, maybe you're a couple that's, looking to get married and thinking, do I need a wedding coordinator? Or even just out there for the information, which is why I'm here, because I love peeling back the curtain, but we'll do that and have more on Amy in just a moment. It's now time for What's the Buzz. So here's where I'm going to go, just on a little rant, these AirPods and stuff. You're going to notice throughout my conversation, like I'm always adjusting. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. If someone wants to reach out and let me know a better way to put these AirPods in my ear, because I had one fall out during the interview. I was always adjusting and they just won't stay. Anyways, that was just on my brain. So that's number one. Number two is I want to thank Kate Pohl. Now, Kate Pohl is from The Tiny Details. She was featured a couple of weeks ago. She is a party planner. And it's interesting, after our episode, I actually reached out to her and I said, you know what? My wife and I are celebrating our 29th anniversary, which happened on May 23rd. And I said it would be really cool because I have a hard time coming up with gifts outside of, let's say, flowers and a card. That's some normal stuff. And obviously we would go to dinner, all those things. But I wanted to do something special. And I said, Kate, can you help me out? And it was great. She put something together that was amazing. I don't even know how to describe it, but I had told her, she said, what is it that you guys love? And I said, well, we love the ocean and we love Disneyland. So she had me send over a few pictures and she came up with a picnic basket that had these awesome champagne glasses in it. There were tumblers that had our names on it. There were stirrers that said S and K. My wife's name is Kristen. And then she even gave us Veuve Clicquot. I think that's how you say it. Like the good champagne. I didn't even tell her that, and I know many people love that champagne, but that's one of our favorites. So that was really cool. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Kate. She did a great job. We're actually, you know what, Kate, you might be involved in all of our family celebrations. So I invite you, if you want to take the guesswork out of things and have her put something together or even help host a party, Kate Pohl of The Tiny Details. You got to check her out. Again, her episode was episode 86. You can hear her whole story. And of course, her information is there as well. I think it's thetinydetails.com. So I wanted to give her a shout out for sure. Now let's get back to our guest and get into this amazing conversation today as we peel back the curtain on what it is to be a wedding coordinator. It's Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings. We now have worked 3 weddings together. And I'll tell you what, she's just phenomenal. She is phenomenal because the way she works just makes you feel so comfortable. And today she's going to tell you why she is an amazing coordinator without her really saying that. But just once you see, you will know, or once you hear, you'll know as well. So let's get right into it. Without further ado, enjoy this talking story. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome in. It is Experience the Buzz. We are so glad to be with you once again. And today we are talking weddings with Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings. Amy, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I would say long time no see because you and I have actually worked a couple weddings, 2 successive weekends. But on last week when we were together, I'm like, you know what? I have got to have you on the podcast because being a wedding coordinator, I don't think people understand, first of all, the value of a wedding coordinator, but really what it is that you do. So let's give the nuts and bolts of Amy Varain Weddings, like how long you've been doing it, and just kind of give us that nice overview.
Okay, so exciting. Well, I've been in the business probably since I got married, actually, which encouraged me to kind of do it for others because I wanted a different experience for others than what I experienced. I didn't have a coordinator back in the day for my own wedding, and I was running around and I knew what I wanted my day to look like. And, nobody else knows what your day's supposed to look like, but you do, and you have this plan, and things didn't happen like they wanted to. I was trying to get my makeup and hair done, and I have out there the cake ladies arriving, and I'm like, oh my God, put the cake over there. I'm like, someone, where's the rose petals? Someone's got to put rose petals on these tables, and I realized that someone was supposed to be me. And as the bride, it was not enjoyable. So that's what I encourage all my brides is get someone else that can help you. And it's great to enlist your friends and family, but how are they supposed to enjoy the wedding when there's so many things that are happening and they don't know what they don't know? They don't know what a wedding's supposed to look like, all the ins and outs. And for me, I've done so many. I've done things from corporate events all the way to, 3-day huge affairs with thousands of people, and then weddings. Weddings is my favorite because, they're fun. It's all about love. They're usually happy occasions. And the goal that I have for the bride and groom, which is just that they can just sit back, relax, be a guest at their own wedding, is something I cherish and do not take that lightly. And so I think it's just something that we just do, like you probably as a DJ as well. It's like, there's so much more than just a job here. I love doing it. This is my heart and soul that I put into every bride and groom, and they end up being friends at the end of the day.
It's truly an experience, and it was great because I've browsed through your website before, but in preparation for this conversation, I went back through it and I'm reading it. And I'm like, you know what, Amy, you are hitting every single detail. And I love your FAQs too, because there's some obvious questions that come up. And the number one, I would imagine, and you tell me, is why get a wedding coordinator, right? I know you kind of described it for yourself, like, okay, this was my situation. It probably would have been nice to have someone in charge, and that's what inspired you to do it. But let's admit it, with brides and grooms, like they have no idea, and it's like they're on a budget and everything. Why get a WC? And I know you have the answer to that.
Yeah, there's so many intangibles that we don't even talk about on the meetings because I only have so much time with my bride and grooms. Especially if they just think, oh, I just need you the day of. The people that need a wedding planner the most actually are the ones that don't think they need it. And they're the ones that are organized, want to plan their own wedding, can take care of all the details they think. Those are the ones that cannot enjoy their wedding on the wedding day because they can't let go. And that's me. I'm describing myself. So, and those actually are my favorite bride and grooms, are the ones that do want to plan their wedding, that are very organized, know they can plan it, know what they want. But those are the ones that I'm like, you need a twin, someone that can think just like you, can worry about all those details, is very fine-tuned, perfectionist. Again, I'm describing myself. And those are who I look for in my clients. I look for those people because I know, just like me, it's hard to let go and sit back and enjoy it and not worry what's happening. Is that taken care of? Like, this is happening next. I sit there and I look for those people and I go, you know what? If you need me to text you every moment of the day, I will. But eventually you're going to realize you can actually let go because I've already done it. Every question you have, I have an answer for. I have a solution. And I've even have a plan B for my plan C, so I got everything for you because I've done this. It's not it's not my first rodeo. I always ask my bride and grooms in the beginning, what do you do for a living? Like you're a DJ, you do that best, right? And so, and for me, I'm a wedding planner. This is what I do. This is what I dream about, live about, always research, like, how can I do my job better? When I'm talking to brides and grooms, I've never worked for a wedding planner. Like, they never say I'm a wedding planner. They say I'm planning my wedding, but I'm a doctor or I'm an electrician or different things. And so let's keep your expertise to you and let me take care of the expertise of the wedding planning job.
I think that's such an important piece. Such an important piece is that you serve a purpose. And again, when they go to the website, any bride or groom goes, like, you have it all outlined for you. And I really do want to address that because, we think about our hubs of how we get our business and everything. And, talk to me about that. It looks like you put a lot of work into the website to make sure that you had all the bases covered, because I don't see anything uncovered when I go through it.
Well, we're always evolving our businesses. We're evolving because every time I have a wedding, I actually go, okay, I just have a new wedding under my belt, and so I don't even know how many weddings I've done now, a lot. And so over hundreds, I should say, plus events and everything else. And so you learn something every time, and so I'm constantly evolving my website to make sure that I'm attracting the right bride and groom as well. Because just like you as a DJ, as we do more weddings, we're just getting smarter and doing things, more efficient, more fine-tuned and everything else. So my next bride is actually better off than the last bride because I've just learned even more. I'm going to school every day I do a wedding, right? We're constantly, fine-tuning our businesses. And so that's what you see when you go to my website is I'm constantly trying to finesse it so I can attract the right client that I'm looking for, that I can be the most useful for.
Yeah, and by the way, that website, we'll put it in the show notes, but it's amyvarain.com, and it's spelled Amy, A-M-Y, Varain, V-A-R-A-I-N.com. You can check that out. Good stuff. But right now, what we're trying to do is just kind of get into what it is, not only what Amy does, but what is entailed with all that. We were kind of joking on our last wedding, like, a lot of what you do, you're like the person that is doing all the work, but is not noticed. And not like that's a bad thing or anything. It's just like the wedding's going to take place. And it's like almost all the people there are like, man, who's really in charge of this, right? And it's you, but you don't need the notoriety because you just live within the moment of making sure that day for that couple is so special.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly at the end of the day, I want my couple. My goal is that they come up to me or they're getting in their exit car, going through their grand entrance. And the last thing they say to me, that was the best day ever. I don't even think of anything going wrong, Amy. And I just kind of smile and go, it was perfect. And we know in the background, we were running around like making sure it was perfect from their end, but things could have gone wrong. But you know what? My motto is the bride will never know. Like, never know. I could write a huge book of all the things you wish you knew what happened behind the scenes, in a wedding, because the bride and groom, even the families half the time never know, and they won't. That's my job. That's what I take home with me. And it's how can I take that and find a solution for next time, and there's so many things. From doing wedding planning so long, a lot of people I just need someone day of, I just need that, this, that, and the other. And what I realize is what I offer now compared to what it was 10 years ago is quite different. And I think it's because we're seasoned, right? I'm a seasoned wedding planner. I know what people need at the end of the day to have that smooth, relaxed, stress-free wedding. And it's not something that we can just come in the week before and learn, okay, here's the binder, give it to us and let's go. There's no way we could do that. Me even talking about you as, referring you as a DJ, I'm sitting there behind the scenes going, okay, that's a 60 day mark. I'm like, you're going to start talking to your vendors. You're going to talk to Steve, the DJ. He's going to look for these things. Let's be prepared. So I try to not only prepare for myself, but also prepare for all the vendors, because at the end of the day, we're a vendor team of expertise, and we are trying to make this as smooth as possible. So whatever I can do to help all the vendors at the end of the day is what, I'm doing through the planning process, which if you didn't have a wedding planner, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know what to ask or what they want from you or what did I forget? Who's bringing the ice is like the biggest question. Who's bringing the openers for the bottles, and things like that. And ice is one thing that is actually forgotten a lot. So I'm always asking, who's bringing the ice? And it's a silly question, but at the end of the day, that's the one thing they go, our groomsmen can do it. I'm like, no, you can't. You don't have time on your wedding day to do anything, And
yeah, it's all the details. Like that's the thing is, and more than normally, like if you didn't have a wedding coordinator, those things you're talking about, things are going to go wrong. They tend to go wrong. And even when I work weddings where there's not a wedding coordinator, you can almost feel a sense of, I don't want to say something's off, but I think that's just the best way, because when working with you, like I don't worry about anything. And, I'm confident enough as a DJ that if there's not a wedding coordinator that, we can help step in, but then it speaks back to what you're saying. That's your lane, right? That's what you're doing. You're making sure that everything runs. And then that allows me as a DJ to do what I'm best at, which is the music and the MC work. Not that I'm okay with filling gaps where they're needed to, but that's the importance. And I hope people can understand the essence of that.
That's exact it. And, and I find myself, I know a lot about everybody's job. There's some jobs I don't like to do. I don't like to be the bartender, but every once in a while I cover the bartender. So if they only hired one, then maybe they have to use the restroom, so I'll pop in and I'll get them a soda until I can get the bartender back, but because I don't want to be an expert in everything. I can do everything. For instance, I think there was one wedding with you where they didn't have a florist. And yes, I know enough where I can do flowers, but you know what it does when you have to step in to be the wedding coordinator that day? It takes away from the job you're doing. Right. So you're no longer able to do your job 100%. Now you can only do it 80% because you had 20%, you're coordinating a wedding, and filling in those gaps. So I always encourage my bride and grooms that we're going to hire experts. We're not going to hire friends and family, things like that, because an expert, they're good at everything they do and they do it well. So I don't have to take a piece of my 100% and give it to somebody else's position. Okay. When you have, all your vendors and everybody's working 100%, oh my God, it's the dream team. Yeah. And you see it, we feel it, right? Yes. Everybody's able to give 100% and exactly what the bride paid you for. The moment they don't bring another vendor on, the payment they paid to you just got really difficult for you because now you're working much harder and they're not getting their full money for the DJ portion that they paid for because now you're being coordinator and everything else. So they're losing out what they don't realize when they decide to not hire experts.
Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings. That's what we're talking today. I love talking weddings. One of my favorite things during the pandemic, which was big for me, was making the shift from doing all my normal events that I do to doing more weddings. Before the pandemic, I was doing somewhere between 9 to 12. And then through the pandemic, upgraded my website, got partnered with 3 other great DJs, and really things took off. I reestablished with the Knot and the Wedding Wire, and actually things have gone well there. And then other partnerships like the ones I have with Amy, which are great. So that's what I want to get to is when we met. And what's interesting, you would think that we've known each other a long time. That's not the case. Yeah. We actually met in August of 2020. It was Tyler and Sydney. And I had known Sydney because her child had played in my basketball program, but it was at Retreat to the Farm. And I met Amy for the first time. And you remember, Amy, I came up to you at the end of the night and I said, wow, you are the best. I mean, I can't tell you how comfortable I felt because here's the thing. I was going to a venue that was brand new. That's not a challenge. Like, I'm confident enough that I can go anywhere, do anything and be okay. But there is that little bit of stress when you go to a brand new place. And you have to remember, in most cases, when you're on a venue site, the ceremony is going to be in a separate part, and then you're going to have the reception. So you got 2 different setups. There's a little bit, some challenges there and everything. You made everything so smooth. And I told myself, I have to make it a point at the end of the night to let Amy know how incredible she is. And I had worked with a lot of wedding coordinators. And to me, you are simply the best. So I'm making the declaration right here on the podcast. Aww. You are the best. But that was crazy because that started our partnership.
Yeah. I look for great vendors as well because I don't do it alone. It is a team effort that we all do. I will fill in the gaps and things like that, but I can't do it by myself. I can say if I had to be the DJ, the bartender, all those things, it wouldn't be as smooth as you saw that evening. So the reason why the evening went so well is because we had amazing vendors too. It is a team effort. And I have to say sometimes vendors don't pull their weight all the time. It's I have to hold their hand a little bit more or, for a DJ, when I tell my brides when they're hiring DJs, I'm like, number one, when you talk to them, that's their voice. That's the voice you're going to have on that microphone that day. It's so important that you like their personality. They're not overbearing or whatever their personality is, that it fits with your style, because everybody has a style. Everybody has a thing. If you're quieter and more subdued, you don't necessarily want a more subdued DJ, but you want someone that can pick up on cues of your guests and the vibe of the night and not be overpowering or change that environment. Because it is a vibe we're trying to encourage that night, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's what I loved about you that day is that I just felt like you just matched the couple so well, but it's not even just that couple. I think that I put you in several situations now that I've referred you, different clients that we've worked on several weddings now. And you just really, I think you do that naturally. You fit into the environment, pick up on the vibe, and you're never in a place where you shouldn't be as far as voice or time or anything else. It's just seamless as far as when you're making announcements, normally I would make an announcement, but you know what, it's not needed right now. And so you pull back. I just saw that in you, the way you read your crowd and stuff like that. And so that's what I enjoy about you, because I've unfortunately had some other DJs where people come in the industry in every aspect, florists, wedding planners. Oh, I planned my cousin's wedding. I think I can do weddings now. Or, a DJ, I DJ'd at this club down, in San Francisco. Maybe they're an amazing DJ, but they're really good into the music and maybe not so good on the microphone.
Right.
And so I am looking for vendors just like you, where there's so much more than just playing music as a DJ. You're now the MC, you're that voice. And, I don't want you being a comedian in some ways. You can be funny and things like that, but it's not I'm giving you a mic to be the star of the show. Right. Yep. And so that's what I loved about you, is that you just had a great balance. And the music was fine. And, everything, like for each wedding, you just really were a great fit. I think you'd fit pretty much anybody, because you just pretty much found what worked, right?
Well, and I'll tell you what, Amy, there's another thing on your website where you said no two weddings are the same. And that's something I use too. It's like, yes, they all have similar components, obviously, right?
Yes.
In the ceremony and the reception, but it's because of the couple, and it's because of the group of people that you're dealing with. And as you said, the vendors that you're bringing together. It's really, truly an experience. And I love that you say that, because for me as a DJ, that is the big thing. I love being able, and I tell couples, I say from start to finish, I am always reading the room, because see, the stigma with the DJs is they're focusing, the couples are focusing on the dance portion. Well, guess what? There's so much more than just the dance portion, right? It's the 30 minutes ahead of time of starting ambiance music to going all the way through cocktail music. Yeah, I could slap on a playlist, but I don't do that. I'm reading the room. Where do we need to go with the next song, and making sure that it really does, like you said, using the word vibe. It's got to fit the vibe of that particular couple. So very important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I just was recently, I love new venues.
Mm-hmm.
I do mainly outdoor estate weddings, which are always a challenge. And that's why I think I like them, because there's no walls. Yeah. We don't have to be confined to this wall or this atmosphere. We create the atmosphere and the vibe and the experience for our bride and grooms. And I just was like working, and I came across a venue that was very much cookie cutter in some ways. And it made me realize like what I love about weddings, and kind of like a new motto for me, like going forward, is like, we plan weddings for our unique to our clients, and not what is convenient for our vendors or venue. And that's why I don't attach myself to a venue, I guess, is because I don't want it to be a cookie cutter wedding. I can put the same couples in the same venue, but it's not going to be the same, because there's even if you have friends and you're going a lot of, when you get married, sometimes there's that age group where you're like, well, we're having 5 weddings. All our friends are getting married this year. Right. Yeah. But your wedding will not be like your friends. They always compare, like, I need to one up them or one up them. I'm like, you don't have to. I said, because your wedding, there's no duplicate of your wedding. You're never going to have the groom side family and the bride side family ever together again. You might have friends and pieces of the puzzle together, but never the whole puzzle together at one time ever again. That this vibe and this environment, this experience, these people will be in one room. So that is the dynamic that we're putting together. And so it'll always be unique to you. But then there's always, like you said, we're going to do the ceremony. We're going to do the entrance. There's all these traditions, right, that we do that people are expecting in weddings. But that doesn't mean it's still not, that it's going to be cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. We will find those moments, those experiences that make it yours, and that's what I love about couples is, when I sit down and talk with you, before you can even become my client, we actually do a 30-minute consultation. Mm-hmm. So you can't just sign up and sign a contract without me meeting you first. And if you're not willing to get on a 30-minute phone or Zoom call with me, then you're not my client, because I feel just like I'm interviewing them and that they're interviewing me. And together we need to decide, like, this is a good vibe. Like, we can work with each other, because if we don't get along, it's not going to be good. Like, you have to get along with your vendors, because we're, at the end of the day, you want to be a guest and we want to create that dream wedding for you that you've envisioned. And somehow you have to be open with me enough and your vendors to let us in on that dream. If you're not comfortable sharing with us and talking to us and letting us know, then how can we help you?
Right. And that's one of my, questions too, is at the end, I say, whether you choose me or someone else, it's ultimately about how you feel. Like, if you feel good with conversating with me and it's going well, then I will tell you, you'll want me, but if you feel that with somebody else, that is okay too. Like, I never take that personal, but you're right. We kind of have to filter out our well. Like, listen, I'll admit my personality will say it's hard for me to say no to people. Like, for me, I just, listen, I want you to have a great DJ. I know what I can do, but I get those few, like, we decided to go a different direction, and I, take it personal, but you often, you go, I wonder what it was, that maybe just didn't fit there, but that's okay. It's just kind of part of the business. And I love that you just kind of have that same thought process going into what you do as a wedding planner. So my final question before we end this first segment is, I think another maybe top question might be, there's wedding coordinators like you, and I love the fact that, you're solo, you're independent, you're not attached to a venue, but then you have what I guess would be called site coordinators, people that are at venues who would serve as the site coordinators. Maybe you can speak to that, because I know there's some differences there as well.
Definitely a difference. The biggest thing is when you hire a site coordinator, they are attached to the venue, and their interest is in the best interest of the venue. So they want to make sure that all the rules are covered. Certain things are, timing, anything that happens on their end. They have a contract that they're working off of, things like that. Compared to me as your wedding planner, I'm the only vendor out of all your vendors that is working for you. I'm going to repeat that. I'm the only vendor that's working for the bride and groom.
Love it.
Compared to the DJ, your thing is music, right? Like, you need to, at the end of the day, if you don't have good music, we're blaming it on the DJ, right? The caterer, we'll have good music with you. But the caterer, if the food comes out cold or there's not enough food, we're blaming it on the caterer. They're working, for the food. Me, I'm working to make sure this all comes together. And at the end of the day, you're happy. That's my goal. Like, that's my contract, not to music, catering, anything else. And so I want to make sure everybody that you contract, I'm kind of overseeing, like the mother bird, overseeing everybody else to make sure the bride gets, I always say it like, I'm your twin. I'm you that day. You get to go sit back. I get to step into your host role and make sure everything you've contracted for all your different vendors. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of exhausted because I think about that. I go, oh, why can't I just be a DJ? I could just be in charge of the music, But I think I like that. I like the challenge of trying to be that bride that hosts that day in all the facets of that. It's kind of like a banyan tree where I have all these branches out, and I want to help you. I'm not there to do your job as a DJ or as a caterer. I'm there to help you be successful because you're already an expert. I don't need to do your photography for you or anything else. I'm just there to help make sure if you want a photo that I have all those people there that need to be in the photo for you. Like, I'm helping everybody. It's quite a challenge, but I love it. Well,
and I remember the last wedding, you were holding babies. I mean, you were.
I will do it. I hold babies. I remember at one point I went into, it was a wedding in Tahoe, actually, at the Hyatt, and I go in and all the women are in, even the bride is in the bathroom, and the maid of honor's in there, and they're like, I need to use the restroom and stuff. I'm like, give me the baby. I'll hold the baby. And so I'm holding the baby, and the baby falls asleep. And I'm like, I'll just walk around for a while. Like, she's even a baby whisperer. I'm like, yes, I do it all.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I have to say too, another parallel thought is that is my thing with couples as well. As I say to them, my goal for you is to make sure that we create your vision musically and with announcements. It's a whole experience. But at the end of the night, when we say goodbye to each other, and I know what the answer is going to be. I said, not only will you be satisfied, but you'll say, you know what, it was over and beyond what I ever thought it could be. And I think that kind of lends to itself because when we're talking, right, they're not married, the wedding hasn't happened. We know that it's a surreal experience. So it can, unless it's a complete disaster, which we, you don't see those very often. 95% of the time, 99% of the time, they're going to be great. But that's what you're going to get is like, you know what? It was beyond whatever I could even think of. So I'm glad that we have that parallel thought in that regard. So the first segment in the books, when we come back from the break, we are going to talk to Amy about who was Amy before she became this amazing wedding coordinator? And she is that, and amazing with a capital A. And then we're just going to go through the process. What is the process? If you're maybe a bride and groom out there and you're listening to this and you're like, we would love to have a wedding coordinator. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you, get Amy, but I'm going to allow her to really take us through that process of how that's all set up, okay? Because it's not a day of thing. That doesn't happen. It's really so much more than that. So here's a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with segment number 2. All right, first segment in the books with Amy Varain. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's now take care of our sponsors. Today, I'm going to start with the original two. That means these two sponsors have been with us for all 88 episodes. Amazing, right? We start with R5 Stitch and Print, my good friend Troy Rousey, killing it in the industry of screen printing and embroidery. You can check them out on r5print.com. He has helped me out in many regards. Very grateful to be, I guess you would say, a customer to his business. In fact, reached out to him and just said, hey, I'm just curious, do you guys do stickers? He's all, yeah. And not only did he do stickers, it was cool. He came up with an idea where he put the Buzzard ball sticker onto a surface, and on the edge of the surface, it had all the social media and website. And he says it makes it easier to peel off the sticker. And I said, that is genius and nothing I would have ever thought of. So thank you, Troy, for a great job. Again, r5print.com. They've got a team on board that can help you out. And what I would tell you, if you don't know what you really want, definitely lean on that and they can put together a portfolio. Again, that's R5 Print and Stitch, or excuse me, R5 Stitch and Print. Got it backwards. All right. Also, want to thank Pit Boss Jerky, Joe Green. Admittedly, I've got to get in touch with Joe. I have not had beef jerky in a long while, and I'm missing my fix because this guy's got not one, not two. How about 13 different flavors? If you want to get on board and taste the best beef jerky, and it's right here, made locally, you get on the order board, 916-769, or excuse me, 916-769-6807 is the number to call. He's got 13 flavors. The most recent is White Bull's Barbecue. Before that, we had one named after this show. Thank you, Joe. It's called Experience the Buzz. Island Teriyaki, very, very popular. And there's Raspberry Apple Chipotle, which was my favorite before Experience the Buzz came around. And then a keto mix. He actually has a keto mix too. For those of you that, you know, the keto is your thing, he's got that for you. So 13 flavors, Pit Boss Jerky, 916-769-6807. So big thank you to our original two. Now let's get back to our conversation with Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back. More with Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings. Her website is amyvarain.com. That is spelled AMYVARAIN. We met just a couple years ago at a wedding. We have actually formed a partnership. And what is great about Amy is that when she goes to her couples, I just feel grateful because she is recommending me as a DJ, which is super awesome. And I know you've seen a lot of great DJs, Amy, and I'm very appreciative to be on that list because it is interesting with sites and stuff of trying to get on as a vendor. I don't push myself. I just kind of let my work speak for itself. And if someone comes up to me afterwards and said, you know what? Wow, we would love to have you here. That actually just happened at a wedding we just did at Black Oak Mountain. They came up to me and said, wow, you're a little bit more professional than what we're used to around here. And I'm like, well, that's what you should be when you're a DJ. So just creating those partnerships. And I'm very grateful for the partnership that we have because truly I know that when you're going to go work with brides and grooms, that it may be a possibility that we'll have the opportunity to work together.
Definitely. It's always fun when I get to work with you, Steve. And yeah, unfortunately, there's not more of you that I can say, we have 2, 3 Steves, you know, so I do have other DJs that I have to have on the wings. But gosh, when I get you on, I'm always like, yes, we got Steve on the wedding. It's going to be great. So excited to work with you, you know, every time.
So it's crazy about Amy because actually on your website too, it's funny. It say located in El Dorado Hills. And then there's this part where it says Hawaii. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Like you do destination weddings as well. Talk to me about that. Like you've incorporated that obviously as a piece that you could be a part of.
Yeah. So I actually started in El Dorado Hills 20 years ago doing weddings, even in Sonoma County as well, all in California. And then we actually moved. I have 3 children actually. So when my kids were young, we moved from here. We were just trying to find a different experience for them as in school and stuff. And so we moved to Maui and we lived there for 7 years. My husband is actually from Maui. So we have family on island. And so my kids did elementary school and part of middle school for 7 years over on the island. So I just moved my business over there and did weddings there, which is, what I learned a lot from doing on weddings on Maui is it's always destination for every couple because no one's ever getting married there. They're always coming there. So it actually changed my business in a lot of ways for the better. Everybody's on Zoom now, but I actually was on Zoom way before the world got on Zoom. It actually was Skype back then, right? Because Skype kind of was in and before we did Zoom, but Zoom tends to be a little more reliable. We can share screens easier and things like that. And everybody knows Zoom now, right? But that's what I learned about being a planner in Maui is that I had to plan a wedding without ever meeting my brides and grooms until the day before their wedding. So
wow.
Yeah. So we actually, we did a lot of Zoom calls and Skype calls, but I was really organized on how do I get this information from their brain to mine, and so when I did meet them, seriously, the day before their wedding at the rehearsal was the first time, but we're hugging like we knew each other for years. I just have a way with people, I guess, that you just become friends. Yep. And just like you and I, Steve, it's like when you click, and then it works, and that's why I try to be very selective on my brides too, because we are going to spend a lot of time together planning, and we'll do it a lot on Zoom because we don't need to plan in person. We can do a lot from from our own homes. So that's what I've learned from doing the Maui thing.
And, I had said going into the break, we talk about Amy before weddings and then the process, but I think we're going to flip it because we're right in it. Perfect. Is, take me through that process of a bride and groom of like, how do they find you? Like, what is your way of getting couples to find you and then bring you on as a wedding coordinator? And once they find you, then take me through like kind of those different packages that you do offer couples.
Perfect. Yeah. So the first thing is I'm actually at a few venues on their preferred vendor list because those typically when I work a venue, they want me back. So they go, wow, everything was amazing, smooth, whatever. I like to toot my own horn, but everything typically goes well with me and that's what I hope. That's what I do professionally. So I appreciate when people say, it was a great wedding with you, Amy, because that's what I do. Right. And so
and you know what? Hey, Amy, I'm going to interrupt you and say, you know what? It is okay because I listen, I know a lot of people know who you are to the core. You are very humble. You love what you do. You're very passionate about what you do. And really, it's very rare that you get a platform like this where you have the opportunity to really say, yeah, this is what I do, and I am good at it. And I think that just comes across as just you're very confident at what you do. There's nothing wrong with that. So toot your own horn, girl. Do it.
Well, I have to say, I'm a little different from some other wedding planners. I don't do this because I have to do it. I do this because I want to do it. I actually worked the corporate world for 15 years. I actually, just a little background, I started a company that was 3 employees and I worked all the way up. I was in the trenches, learned every job and grew the company to 30 employees. And I was I was the vice president of that company in the corporate world and doing weddings on the side. And I was trying to, on the weekends, I'd be wedding planner and then I'd be working the corporate job and I just volunteer. I just loved it. But, I never wanted it to be not a love. I never wanted it to be a job because I didn't want to not like it, right? When you are passionate about something, you don't want to ever get that feeling like, oh, am I going to hate it if I just do it all the time, right? And so I actually ended up quitting my corporate job about 10 years ago and just going full swing into this. And I do it because I love it. I only take on brides because I want to, if it doesn't work out or if I don't want to work next month, then I don't have to. I do it because I love it, and some people, and I do talk to some wedding planners, they're like, I do 1, 2, up to 3 weddings a weekend. I'm like, that's not me. If you see me doing 2 weddings in a weekend, it's because there's a circumstance that happened, maybe. And that's what happened this last weekend. I actually did my first 2 weddings in a weekend, which I do not normally do. But with COVID, we had to adjust. We had to, they canceled their first wedding and the only, weekend they can get in at this venue was a Friday. And so I'm like, we'll do it. We'll make it happen. I want you to get married, so just like you, we just adjust, in every part of our lives. And that's what we did this year is we're taking on things that we say yes to everything, right? That sounds,
right. Exactly.
I try to say no more often, but I'm not very good at saying no because I just love it. I love what I do,
Yeah, it's definitely not a strong suit for, I think, either of us. So with that corporate job, what were some, maybe like 1 or 2 things that you were able to bring into what you do currently as a wedding coordinator? What were those big things?
It's the organization. It's the organization of taking that. I mean, to be able to grow a company from 3 people, adding employees, adding HR, we need all the structure. How do they do their job? So all the, this is what you do as a technician, or this is what you do as in this position as a salesperson. Somebody had to write all those processes. And as we grew the business, that was me. So I would do that job. I've done everything under the sun. I was in the trenches with the technicians. I'm out with the salespeople. So I've done every aspect of a business, even the HR and the bookkeeping. So that's why I'm able to run my business so successfully, is because I know how to run a business from start to finish in all aspects. And that's what also is good about doing wedding planning, because wedding planning actually is very similar to running a business in a way. You hate to say that because you don't want to take the fun out of it, but I mean, you have financial in there, we have timing, and when we make payments and things like that, and can we get all the pieces to the puzzle? Because without certain pieces, it doesn't flow right. We need food, we need decor, we don't need to spend all our money in those areas, but that's, and they need someone to organize all that. And to be the bad guy in some ways, I guess. You were talking about the process. I'll take you back to that.
Please.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying anybody's a bad guy in anything, but what's nice about getting to know my couples is the first thing I tell them is that hiring a wedding planner, I'm that person that doesn't know who you are. I don't know when you grew up that you loved pink and being a ballerina, or that you loved fire trucks or any of that, compared to your family and friends. A lot of people are inviting their childhood friends to the weddings, or their mom's been in their life their whole life, so it could be drama or not drama, but I only know the people that you show me during this process. And so if you have changed, because, when you get, you're married, when you join two forces together, you do evolve as a person, different than you were with your family growing up and stuff. And so you might take on new traits that your family maybe not know, because you're growing together with this other person. And that's why you decided to marry them. Because you're like, that person brings out this in me, they complete me, right? As we hear all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And so as a wedding planner, I get to plan a wedding for them as a couple, not who they were ever in their lives. And so I'm like that person that I'm like, if your mom comes and says, oh no, they don't like that, I'm like, well, actually they do. They said they wanted that, and so I get to be that person that encourages and supports them in the wedding of their dreams, not the wedding that they may have told somebody else as they were growing up.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And so you talk about, like, when a couple comes on, you have that initial consultation. And I know you have something that's kind of the foundation of them hiring you, but then it takes it to another level where they could have you and you give certain things, or you can get the full deal and get Amy all the time. Right. So maybe take us through that as too, because like you said, okay, I know it sounds funny, but when you talk to couples and they're trying to give you their idea, their vision, like in your mind, you're going, they don't know what they don't know. Right. Yeah. Maybe they've been to weddings, but they've never gotten married. It's usually everyone's first marriage, a lot of them. And so you are like providing what that vision is going to look like. And so, let's describe what it would be like if someone hired you, where you would take them with like packages that you offer.
Yeah. So the consultation for me I require that before anybody can hire me. It's a 30-minute consultation. It's over Zoom. Usually it's what I prefer, because I read a lot of body language. In a way, I become a therapist in some ways, but I've done sales in my life, and with my corporate background, I'm able to read people, like what type of people are. Some people are analytical. Some people are emotional. Some people, it's a feeling that they go by on how they're going to wake up that day. Are they happy or they're sad because the sun's out? And I see that when I talk to my bride and groom. So they don't realize it. Now I'm giving my background away, but when I'm asking,
your secrets,
but it's something that's unique to me. But I ask a lot of personal questions, because the one thing I tell them is that after our call, I actually want you to go talk to 2 or 3 other wedding planners. And I encourage you to do that for all your vendors. Talk to 3 DJs, talk to 3 caterers. 3 is the magic number, right? Because if it is a good fit, they will know that. They will know from the conversations. Like, if you choose me, it's because I was the best out of the 3. And that's what I want to be. I don't want to be the person because I fit in your budget or anything else. Because at the end of the day, everything, if we really want a sweater at the store or something, we're going to figure out a way to buy it. Right. And that's what we do. Right. And so if you really have a wedding planner or a DJ that you want, you'll figure that out on how we get that. Right. And so it's not about, yes, there is a budget, right? But it's not about the budget at the end of the day, because it's an emotional thing, a wedding is, right? So during the consultation, I get to learn a lot of things. And one thing I actually tell them, I do give you nuggets to, even if they never hire me, I give them things because I still want the best for my couples, even if they're not my couple, because at the end of the day, I just want you to be married and enjoy your life. And so I always say, you don't need to knock everything out of the park. And wedding planners don't take this from me, but you just need three, like you just need
Yep.
three things. Like sometimes it's not tangible always. It's you don't want drama at your wedding. You want a beautiful venue and music. You love music, right? And then everything else we get creative on, so we focus on those, and everything else we just figure it out, and that's kind of my little nugget I always leave them with at the end of the conversation. And I always say, is this something that you want to get a proposal for? And if they choose to go with me, the package is kind of, I'm different, I'd say, in very many ways. I don't necessarily do wedding coordination. I do a package called wedding management. What I've realized, and this comes from the corporate world, actually, I guess, is I'm actually managing your wedding from start to finish. I'm not a decorator. I'm not a florist. There's a thing out there that people hire wedding planners because they just want someone to decorate the space the day of. I don't do that. Yes, I can do that, but that's not what you're hiring me for. That's not what I do. There's so many things that is actually something that I really don't have time for on the wedding day. You've seen me where I'm running around like, whoo, we got that one in. I was not planning for that. The florist didn't do that. And so I had to fix that. We do it, but you're not hiring me to be your decorator the day of. So I do wedding management. When you hire me, I'm actually different than wedding coordinators. Even if you're just getting me for just that base package, which is wedding management, that's me coming in where you want to plan your whole wedding, but you want someone available to help you. And then the last 60 days, we really fire it up and really, clean up. I can clean up everything in 60 days is how I kind of say it. But the difference between me and some other wedding coordinators out there, or day of coordinators, what you might see in the world, is right after you sign, in the first 2 weeks, we actually have our first phone call, and it's a 2-hour Zoom meeting. The reason why is because even though if you're organizer or anything else, you still are not you're not an expert wedding planner, right? Even though you may know that you're organized, you can do all this stuff, you may not know that what you need. And so I actually give them a website. I give them all the tools to plan a wedding so they don't have to go and Google it and research it. And then we talk about your budget, which is something nobody wants to talk about on their own. And sometimes it's something that bride and grooms don't like to have that conversation. So I typically have that conversation with them. I'm like, let's talk about budget and be realistic here. And from a wedding planner, I actually know what the going rate is for most things out there, right? Like, yes, there's a high end and there's a low end and there's an average, and you can go anywhere in between, but let's get you an idea, because most people go, yeah, I'm going to plan a wedding for $5,000. I'm like, you can definitely have a wedding for $5,000, but you may not be able to have that DJ you wanted, or that photographer, or this venue, because it doesn't fit in that budget. So we have to get creative, Right. So I just help them be realistic with what they're doing in the first meeting. And I kind of go, okay, here you go. Here's some referrals. So this is where I would refer you, Steve, if they need it. If you're the right fit. I'm looking for the right fit for everything too, right? And so if they say, hey, I want a fun DJ, read the vibe, great voice, I'm like, you got to call Steve, And same with photographers. I'm like, and if I know that it's a short notice, I go, you know what? I'm going to message Steve right now to see if he's even available, because if he is, then I'd like you to get on a phone call right away. So it's really helping them right out the gate to be successful, because then that's how we have these successful weddings at the day of, right? It starts at the beginning. And so if you're hiring a wedding coordinator and thinking they can pick up the pieces like we talked about in the very beginning, just by handing them a binder, then I'm not that one for you, because for me, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be at the end of the day that it's as perfect as it could be, and one thing, a nugget that you might want to use too, that I constantly use is, we can't control the weather. We can't control heat. We can't control your guests. We can't really control anything at the end of the day. So we just know like this is our goal. This is our timeline. This is our vision. But I did let them know is at the end of the day, our ultimate goal is that you're married. Right. And so I'm actually a pastor as well. And so I actually got my, people don't know this. I'm not a pastor, should I say. I'm officiant. So I can go and marry you at the end of the day.
Oh my gosh.
And the reason why, well, I have a solution for everything. I'm a wedding planner, right? And so that was my solution because more recently, we've had more not expert officiants. They're just friends or family That's a new
Yes.
trend in the last couple of years. I love it. But you're hiring people that they don't do this professionally. And so they can get cold feet. They can be sick. They can, I don't know, they could just not say the right things or come unprepared or whatever. And so at the end of the day, I say, you will be married. I will marry you. I can sign that certificate. I can do it all because that's our goal, right? And so that's what was my solution. I went and got my officiant license. So you'll be married at the end of the day.
That is so cool because you've hit on it right. Because when I'm getting the officiants mic'd up, or we're talking about that, I always ask the question. So have you done a few of these? And I'm telling you, 8 out of 10, first time, I'm a friend, that kind of thing. And then in my back of my mind, I'm like, okay, this could be okay, or it could be really bad, because here's the thing with officiants is there's that balance of being able to navigate a ceremony without, now you tell me, because you've seen these, they start telling their own stories and they kind of make it about
like a toast in a way.
Yes, exactly. It's a toast. It's like, don't do that. Just focus on, and it's the same thing with the DJ. That's why I always have couples tell me, hey, have you been to a wedding or have heard a horror story of a DJ? And usually it all comes back to the DJ was making it about themselves. And that's the thing. A wedding is not that. It is about the couple hiring vendors like yourself, myself, to ensure that we bring that vision together. Nothing more.
Yeah. And and that's what I look for in my vendors, actually, are vendors that are, I want you to be an expert in what you do. Like if you're a photographer, I want you to have good photography, things like that. Because I look for that. I'm like, oh, wow, they're amazing photography. But I also don't want it to be all about photography or all about DJ or all about this, because it's not about any of us. It's about the couple. They're going to do this once. We want to do it right. And if they feel like, they're done with, yes, we had on the timeline, we were going to do sunset photos, but, they're not feeling it right now. We don't. And we're not getting our feelings hurt. I mean, I don't, and I let the photographer know, like, you might be the photographer and I want you to be successful, but that's one question I ask. How important is photography? How important is DJ? How important are all these aspects? So I can let that vendor know this is what they're looking for. This is where they want you to be creative. This is where they want you to pull back. They want you to story tell. They want you to catalog it. How do we want to, at the end of the day, put their day together? Right. And it's,
I love it.
And that's why you're hiring me to look out for you. Right. And so back to my package, as we were talking about this, I actually treat all my brides and grooms as full service clients. So that's the difference. I'm not going to, if you get me for just my base package, I'm not going to say, no, I don't do that. No, I don't do that. Or this package only has this. So the only difference between my wedding management, which is my base, and my partial or full planning is just more focused time, I call it. So you have so many hours where we get on the phone or a Zoom call typically, and we are talking on Zoom for my base package, but you're always able to reach out to me anytime via email. I have some brides that take advantage of that, and they question me, every month. They're saying, I'm working on this. I'm like, okay, great. You're doing great. And then I don't hear from others forever. And it's whatever you want, whatever floats your boat. Right. But if you get me for partial planning, then we're going to add 10 more hours of on Zoom focused planning, I call it. Because gosh, an hour with me on the phone is like 40 hours of researching Google on your own. Because, because we have a lot of weddings under the belt. We can pull from all these ideas we've had from everything else or solutions that we've had to come up with, or this venue, I've done this before. We normally have an answer to your question without Googling it. So I call it focus planning. That's 10 hours with my partial planning. If you go for full planning, then I add 30 hours of focus planning, and we get to shop. We get to do things together. We meet in person. That's really fun. The partial and full planning, because with partial planning, normally we're dealing with rentals. We get to go to the rental company and we get to actually touch the linens, look at what the tables look like. And it's so much fun because it really puts into perspective. This is happening. I'm getting married, And then full service, we really it's more time we get to spend together. We go to coffee, we shop antiques if we want antiques at our wedding, and want to go dress shopping. Let's do that. I'm just there from start to finish. So, but
that's great.
Yeah. Every couple is treated the same. You're all full service to me. So there's no like real bottom package. On your wedding day, you're going to get the same treatment I treated everybody else. It's going to be amazing at the end of the day.
Well, everyone listening out there, are you feeling the vibe that I'm feeling when it comes to Amy Varain and Amy Varain weddings? It's exactly why I love being partnered with her and the reason why I wanted to bring her on the show. And kind of, I guess, paralleling with what I was like talking about with, couples at the end of the night of saying, hey, I hope it was beyond. Like, the same with this conversation. Like, I knew it was going to be a conversation, but I will tell you truthfully, it was over and beyond. And Amy, I just love it because I never have this opportunity to really go in depth about what you do. Like, I just have that feel and that vibe to go on based on the times that we have worked together. So I'm so grateful that you've been able to kind of peel back the curtain on what it is to be a wedding coordinator or wedding management. It's just good stuff. So before we go, I do want to ask, like, you talked about your inspiration, it came from like your wedding to saying, hey, this is something I would love to do. And then obviously you got into that. I'm sure we could dive into that as well in terms of just that transition. But like, where did you grow up and, what was your childhood like and what kind of led you in this direction? And you got a husband from Maui. I mean, come on, and 3 kids. It's a beautiful thing.
I know, I come from humble beginnings. We didn't have, my parents were working hard workers, and nothing was ever handed to me, since I was 12 years old. I remember making my own money. And so I'm not good at taking, should I say, compliments and things like that, because I always was like, I got, if it's meant to be, it's up to me type of personality, but I'm also like, I know I can do it. Nothing stops me. Like, if we have a vision, we're going to figure it out. Like, I do a lot of give back events. Like, I'm actually doing a Montessori school this Friday, and she's dear to my heart. She was a Montessori school for my kids. And so every couple of years we do a big end of the year party. And so I'm just super creative. I build furniture. The office I'm in, I built this office. So for me, I'm like, I love YouTube. I love that we don't have to go to the library to learn anything anymore. Pinterest is great. Sometimes it's our worst nightmare because, it gives us all kinds of ideas, but I'm very creative. And so for me, it's never a no. It's always like, there's a solution for everything is kind of like my whole life is kind of, I put that around and I just, we'll figure it out. I don't need anybody to do it. I love the support, and that's why for vendor teams, it's like, yes, I can do it. I can do your flowers. And just like you, it's hard to say no. But as I'm getting more and more, doing more and more weddings under my belt and all these things, what I realize is that I am really best at organizing everything and keeping everybody else. And the more I try to make myself thin, yes, I can do it, but it's not the best me. The best me is helping you throughout this process, trying to find the best vendors, the best organization. And so that's what I've really honed in on. And that's why I've changed my packages so much. And it's really into the wedding management package, which is quite different than you're going to find anywhere else out there, is that I am a very robust wedding planner. You get a lot with me. You're getting your best friend during this wedding process, because I'm not going to hold anything back when I plan with you. I will help you find those ideas, find the weddings of your dreams. But I put a lot of time and effort into every couple, and so my wedding management is not compared to, if you're looking for a day of coordinator, and it's not a budget thing, I should say, but I'm not going to be that one that you can just put on the back burner and go, oh, we'll hire her, a month before your wedding. I'm going to have to say no to that, because I've realized I want this time planning with you, because it just, that's what you really need. You may not know it, but really you want to hire me a year before your wedding so I can be there and be that support for you, and be that person, that sounding board that's non-biased. I'm not your family. I'm not your friends. I'm not going to tell you my opinion. I'm going to guide you and give you advice.
Well, I love it, because the last part is when you go on your website and you have your quotes from your couples. One said she's the Mary Poppins, of wedding coordination. And I think that's just great. Really, you bring the magic, or at least bring that vision that couple is wanting. And Amy, I'm just so appreciative of the time. I hope we got everything out there. If we have to do a follow-up, we'll do a follow-up, but I think we got the nuts and bolts of what Amy Varain weddings are all about.
Yeah, this is amazing. And I just love working with you, Steve. And it's a great conversation. It's like we never get to talk and just chat because we're always working so hard, So.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. We just catch up on basic stuff and, we're kind of in the zone, in the game and stuff. So that's why I'm grateful that we've had this opportunity. And of course, continued success. And I know we'll be working a lot together down the line. And again, very grateful for the work that you do. You are truly amazing.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the platform to kind of get in, what it is out there that we do. And sometimes it's, pulling the curtain back is always nice sometimes. Because sometimes people don't really know what we do, right? So
it's true. It's true. And that was the whole purpose for this. So there she is, Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings. We are going to take a break and we'll come back with more right here on Experience the Buzz. All right. How about that conversation from Amy Varain? Thank you so much again, Amy. That was truly a fun time. And like I told her in that last part of that segment, I knew the conversation was going to be good, but she actually went over and beyond what I thought it would be. Just like what we try to do with our couples, whether I'm the DJ or she is the wedding coordinator. Good stuff. Okay, we want to thank our sponsors because they make everything roll here. We've got 4 locals. We heard from R5 Stitch and Print and Pit Boss Jerky. Little Whale Swim School, third sponsor, Anya Hall, who is featured in episode number 6, an incredible story. She runs the premier swim school in Sacramento. Did you hear me? The premier swim school in Sacramento. And as you know, it's hot outside, right? And so it's time to get into the pool. But what if I told you that it's an indoor facility and it's year round? So yes, the summer's coming up. This is probably a great time to get on board, whether you have young ones like babies all the way up to adults. They have classes for everyone. They're located right here in Sacramento at 4106 El Camino Avenue. Check them out on the web, littlewhaleswim.com. They're also all over social media at Little Whale Swim, either on Instagram or Facebook. Again, Premier Swim School in Sacramento. So glad to have them on board as a sponsor. And last but not least, Matt Gougé. He's Matt, the mortgage guy. Featured his story in episode number 28. Easy website, MTMG, which stands for Matt, the mortgage guy.com, or you can dial up 916-802-9291. What does he do, him and his team? Well, if you need a refinance, if you're looking for a home loan, he does all that. In fact, they're doing it locally, but also doing it nationally. I'll tell you about the national thing in just a moment. So he's got the website, mtmg.com. They've got a home purchase qualifier on there, refinance rate checker, today's mortgage rates, and loan options. What has really catapulted Matt and his group is his presence on YouTube. That's right. He has his own YouTube channel, Matt the Mortgage Guy. He has over 500 videos, well over 1 million viewers, has been doing it since the mid 2010s, like 2014, I think was the first year he started, and he just produced videos. He also does a live chat where he is just basically educating anybody who comes on board, and that's every Monday at 6 o'clock. So Matt the Mortgage Guy, Little Whale Swim School, thank you for your sponsorship right here on Experience the Buzz. Now we're going to turn the tables and go to our final segment, which features, yes, the Banter Bros. Here we go.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Experience the Buzz. It is segment number 3, our final segment, and we bring in once again the Banter Bros, better known as my 2 boys. Yeah, Toph and Max Buzzard. The big news, Toph Buzzard closing in on fatherhood. And Toph, I have to bring this to your attention. It actually was brought to my attention that maybe a good podcast episode would be one on fatherhood. One of, an expecting father. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm welcome to that idea. I mean, I'm taking all the advice I can at this point right now, so sounds like a dandy idea.
Well, outside of what maybe I've told you, what is the best piece of advice that you've kind of heard maybe so far as you prepare for being a dad? This is a big one, putting you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think the biggest thing that I've been told so far is just expect the unexpected. You don't have there's not a guidebook on it necessarily. Like, I do believe in God and I believe in the Bible, and I think the Bible does guide me in parenthood, but there's not in the Bible, it's not okay, this is how you fold a diaper, but there's bigger things that it guides me on. But as far as, the little tangible things, expect the unexpected. You can prepare as much as you want, but there's probably going to be something that just comes from out of left field. And I think right now what I'm focusing on is just being a support to my wife, Bailey, and being a support to her as she brings our daughter into the world. And then, this is where I get to step up and just be that support system. So I think that's the best advice I've been given so far. Yeah.
Okay, I like that very much. Very good. And Max coming to us from Arcata, where his time is winding down. He's coming back to the 916. I have to ask you, Max, what are the emotions like? Like you're ending another chapter in your life and you're coming back home.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a farewell tour, like a Big Poppy or something.
Adrian Beltre.
I'm just, getting all the love from everybody. But yeah, I'm excited. Actually, a good friend, you guys know, Hayden Roundtree, been around for a long time. He's been on some sports teams back in the day. But he texted me today and was like, hey, I just moved back to Sac. And I was like, it kind of got me fired up because I was like, man, I know I'm going to have my family and stuff, but it'll be fun to hang out with some old friends again and, be back with the family. And I'll be the cool uncle, so I'm excited for unclehood. And, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's bittersweet, but leaning more towards sweet for sure.
So, boys, before we get into the topics, I do have to ask, any reaction or feedback that you got from last week's episode with the Banter Bros group chat? I mean, Kirk Langley, Nick Hilton bringing it. I watched it over and over, and I was laughing every time. Now, again, I think it could have even went another level. I almost felt like it was a PG-13 version of what it really should be. But, Max, any reaction and feedback that you've got on it?
Yeah, I got some reaction from friends, Taylor Vakian, and I got a like, on the post from Travis and stuff. So, people know, they know what it's about, and I think Taylor especially, he eats it up. He loves that. But yeah, people love the Banter Bros.
And Toph, what's been said on the group chat? What's been the conversation?
Yeah, Kirk saying I'll bring up the numbers. It'll be the most viewed Experience the Buzz podcast. It's classic Kirk. I don't even know if he said that since then, but he was saying that all before we recorded. I just had a blast, honestly. I do agree with your sentiment, though, Dad. It was PG-13. Not that it has to go rated R or beyond that, but the Banter Bros, when it's firing on all cylinders, it probably leans more towards the rated R. So I think we were maybe too comfortable. We weren't as comfortable as we could have been. And that's why we talked after we stopped recording, hey, let's do this again, and let's really fire on all cylinders. So I think we can bring another level. So if that gets anybody excited, be ready. I think there's something coming out, probably NBA Finals time, where we'll go in.
Yeah.
All right, so if you are brand new to Experience the Buzz, and especially as of late, we now have made this a segment. So 4 or 3 podcasts ago, I featured Toph and Max, where we were trying to revitalize a podcast that they had put together called The Banter Bros. And then we decided, hey, let's make it a segment. So we did that for one episode. We had the Banter Bros group chat last week, and so now we're back to them being the final segment as they tag on to this week's guest. And so I have to start with the U.S. Open. Let me say this. I was on that bandwagon of, if Tiger's not playing, I'm not into it, okay? And I realized Tiger was playing, but I'm not into it, right? He's not Tiger that we know. But it's odd. I come home from a wedding, turn on the TV, and it's a replay of the last couple of holes in the final round. And Toph, what an amazing, only an amazing victory by Justin Thomas, but the breakdown by the rookie from Chile. Wow. I mean, probably in your lifetime, I was thinking about this, you probably have not seen anything like that.
Yeah, I know there's been some, right? I know there's been the blowouts when the lead has been held. And that, as I'm getting more into golf, I know is a thing. Like, hey, if you have the lead in a major on a Sunday, probably not good because you have that pressure. So I knew that as a bona fide thing, so to say, for golf. But seeing that live, I was actually watching it live. And man, when he took that swing that he took on the 18th hole, I feel for him.
You just knew.
Yeah.
You just knew.
You just knew he was trying to do too much. Dude, take a lower club, put it in the middle of the fairway, get it close. If you have to go up and down for par, you win. If you bogey, you go to that playoff. And it's just tough. Upon reflection, I texted my friend Nolan, who's been on our podcast before, Banter Bros. He's a big golf guy. He's probably the biggest golf fan I know. He said 0 out of 10 club choice with driver on 18. And I can't help but agree with him upon retrospect. And it's just absolutely brutal. The pressure, I don't think, is like any other sport. Standing over a ball like that. I mean, me and you, Dad, could go play the local Ansel Hoffman track, and we feel pressure over a ball that means absolutely nothing. A 5-footer for, to get 95 or something. This guy is playing for a major championship. You can't make that pressure up. So I think it just got to him. But hey, shout out to JT. He made a surge, one of the biggest comebacks ever in a major championship. He's won 2 PGA championships now. That's a big notch on his belt for sure. To get that second one, kind of gets that monkey off his back as just the one and done guy. And I mean, he's a great golfer, and he deserves it. He made that surge on Sunday, and that's what you need. And the crumble happened, and it was a great playoff. Will Zalatoris, I will say, we'll be seeing that guy win a major championship sometime soon. He's always there, and he's only played in like 8 of them. So Willie Z, he'll definitely be there for sure.
Okay, and I know we just kind of dove into it, but for someone who may not be a golf fan, just a quick setup. Justin Thomas going into that final round was 7 strokes off the lead. And he basically just stayed in it, obviously was getting birdies at the right time, while, the leaders and everybody above him were starting to fall apart. And getting to that last hole, we mentioned Mito Pereira, and he went to Texas Tech, and he got to this major by winning 3 on the Korn Ferry Tour. So it's quite an accomplishment for what he did. But all you have to do is look up his swing on number 18. That's it. And even if you're not a golfer, you will understand a total collapse. Like, it was a failure. And not only that, he didn't really do much after that to help himself because he ended up getting a double bogey. So what that did is that sent Justin Thomas, who was sitting in the clubhouse, and then don't forget that Will Zalatoris, he had to knock in a big par putt on 18. Those two go to the playoff. Thomas goes birdie, and then gets a great par at the end to win it. So it was just a great story. And the last time I'd seen anything like that was Jean Van de Velde. And that's in the British Open years ago, where he had the big lead and he collapsed, hit it into the creek. And it's like you just feel for golfers in that moment. So it was a cool thing, and I thought it'd be a great way to kick off. Now, what you realize is that we didn't allow Max to chime in on this. So, Max, do you have any take? Because I know you're a big Tiger fan. What would you say on this one?
I mean, I'm trying to look it up the swing, but I can't.
Yes.
Can't find
Look
it.
it up. Yeah.
Mito?
Look it up on your own. Yeah, Mito Pereira. Just look up round 4 highlight of the PGA Championship, and it'll eventually come up. But yeah, Max, watch it and let us know after, because it's tough. It's tough to watch. He's trying to do way too much for sure.
Yeah, that's.
But Max, I am intrigued. I mean, do you have anything to add? You a Justin Thomas guy? You like Justin Thomas? You know anything about him? I mean,
I've heard of his name a couple times.
Sure.
Who's your favorite golfer that's not Tiger Woods?
Kevin Sutherland.
Let's go.
Hey, friend of the program, right, Dad? Friend of the program.
That's right. Absolutely. Has been on Experience the Buzz. Friend from, way back. And we love that.
Yeah,
That's great. That's good support right there. Killing it on the senior tour, or the Champions Tour, as they like to call it. So, good stuff. Anyways, I thought it'd be a fun way just to kick off. So many great stories there. And you know what it did for me? Because I stopped watching golf. I really did after Tiger, kind of that whole thing collapsed. But this gave me that spark of, you know what? This is why it's fun to watch at least the majors and watching that final day and, seeing drama. Like, this was drama on a very deep level because you had not only the collapse but the comeback. That's what I thought was so cool about it. But our main topic that we wanted to bring to the table are the faces of each of the three sports. So we're talking the big three: Major League Baseball, NFL, and the NBA. So let me ask Max. Max, I'm going to allow you to kind of take the helm here of where would you like to go first?
I missed. I don't know. Did you miss Toph, some of that?
Yeah. No, Dad, it did cut out a little bit for us.
There was a gap.
Just a little bit. I think I know we're going into the faces of all three leagues, right? Baseball, basketball, football, correct?
That is correct. Okay, so you guys, I'm okay now. We're having...
Because Michael edits, right?
Sometimes. So we are going to be looking at the faces of Major League Baseball, NFL, and the NBA. So Max, where would you like to start?
How about we start with the NFL?
So what we're looking at here is, I think the way we set it up is we said, who is the face of the NFL or faces of the NFL, and then who would be the ones that would be the guys down the road, if we can name those. So go ahead, Max.
All right. Well, face of the NFL, I think it's been Tom Brady for a number of years. I think some could argue Aaron Rodgers, or even Pat Mahomes now, but I think just the domination of Tom Brady, even in these years of his career, I'm pretty sure he still gets like one of the top selling jerseys in the NFL, right there. And he's a winner too. So I'm kind of taking a bias in. I'm not going based off of only jersey sales or whatever. But I think Tom Brady is the face of the NFL. And down the line, I keep thinking it'll be Pat Mahomes that'll take over, but he has to win. He has to win again. He has one Super Bowl. Right? They won. Yeah. Who did they beat?
Right. Yep.
Who did they beat? Oh, they beat. They beat the 49ers.
49ers.
That was awesome. That Super Bowl was great. But yeah, I think Pat Mahomes will have to win a couple more. And I thought by this time he would have 3 Super Bowls by now. I thought that he wasn't going to lose. But the Chiefs seem to be a team that can be beaten. Their defense isn't always magnificent. And this year, the Raiders are there to maybe put some scare into the Chiefs. So, I think Mahomes, but there's also, I just feel like quarterback is kind of the position too. Guys like Josh Allen, you got a guy like Kyler Murray, who I don't think will win anything in his career, but he's kind of that fun guy. He runs around the field a bunch. He can throw the ball far, and I think the young generation likes a player like that. So Lamar Jackson too, a guy who's won an MVP. I think the league is in good hands, but Tom Brady is still that guy.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, too, because most of those names you mentioned are quarterback, and that's what's strange with the NFL is the defense, even the kickers and special teams, They
Yeah,
get
I
no
mean,
love, and I guess you could throw wide receivers in there too. And I don't think you named a running back, which is strange because that shows you that's even changed. The dominant running back is like very far and in between,
Yeah.
far few and in between, where now it's running back by committee. So, Toph, I'm curious of where you're at on this.
Well,
NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's undoubtedly a quarterback league, right? You got to have a good quarterback to win, right? So, I mean, yeah, the fact that none of those other names were named is not shocking to me because it's a quarterback-driven league. And so where I would maybe just go the other fork in the road from Max is I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers is the face of the NFL. And the reason I think A-Rod is the face of the NFL is because he's so polarizing now. He is just always a story due to his antics as of late, which can be annoying. Now, Tom Brady, certainly Max has a pedestal there to stand on. I'm not going to battle against that one. Tom Brady certainly faced the NFL, but due to Aaron Rodgers' ability to stay in the limelight, maybe not always for good reasons, I would say as of the last few years, as Tom has made his shift to Tampa Bay, who is more of a lesser market, he knew that was a good situation for him. I think that's where Aaron Rodgers has stepped in and become the face of the NFL for the last few years.
Okay. And do you have any like rising stars? I know Max had his list right there. Any that you would add to that?
Yeah, I can't go the other way from Max on the up next. I would say Patrick Mahomes is the next face of the NFL. He's flashy.
Okay.
He's in the media. He's doing golf tournaments. Kids know him. He does the crazy throws. It kind of came to hurt him last year. I think it all came around. So we'll have to see if that pans out over time. And we will have to see if the Chiefs can stay in it with losing Tyreek Hill, not always having a great defense, like Max said, but they've got the great coach. They've got the cornerstone quarterback. But it just goes to show it's hard to win in the NFL. Tom Brady, what he's done, it's just hard to do. And we won't see anybody like Tom Brady. That's the thing. So we can't have that expectation of Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I agree with Max. He needs to win again, right? And he probably needs to do it within the next few years. But we can't say, okay, he needs to win this many to be the face of the NFL. I think as soon as Tom goes, which could be in the next year or two, it's Pat Mahomes' league.
Okay, very good. And it's interesting because when I was making my list, what I tried to, I guess my lens that I put on was, face of the NFL, NBA, MLB, but who do I get excited about? Like, who would I turn on the TV for? Which I think kind of lends to the category. And, I wrote down Tom Brady. I just don't think we're going to see anything like that. I don't see that being matched. And for him to go to Tampa Bay and have done what he's done in the last 2 years, retire, and then unretire to come back one more year and then makes the greatest business decision. I mean, he's getting $375 million. That is secured to be a Fox analyst. And and he's made more with that contract than he has in his career. So to me, Tom Brady is just the essence of just clever. So I just love that. And I wrote down Mahomes, I think the obvious one. But the guys I get excited about, and I was trying to remember, is this a fantasy football bias? And I was trying to put that to the side. But Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp, because I think what Cooper Kupp did last year is right up there and maybe even beyond what Jerry Rice did in his one season where he had that phenomenal season. Now, Jerry Rice has a longer track record, no doubt about it. But what Cooper Kupp did last year, unmatched. I mean, that was pretty amazing. So that's my take on the NFL.
Yeah, I think.
And another guy, too, Devontae Adams,
Absolutely.
Of course.
I think with Kupp, the big thing with Kupp will be, was it a flash in the pan type thing? Can he keep doing that? Like, you would be nowhere near ready to crown him a face of the NFL. But if he does this type stuff, Jerry Rice type stuff, then you might start considering that conversation.
But, Dad, I like the Josh Allen. I think, I think I could be biased because I don't like the Chiefs and I don't, really care for Patrick Mahomes. He's kind of like Steph Curry in my eyes. But except Curry has more championships, but Pat is 25, so we'll see. But Josh Allen is just so electric, and he's like 6'6", and he can run faster than some running backs, and he can throw the ball 80 yards down the field, and he has digs, and then other than that, there's not like a flashy receiver, so he kind of makes a lot of his work on his own. But yeah, I think he's the most exciting quarterback for sure.
Okay, so NFL in the books. So it looks like, Brady, Rodgers, Mahomes, kind of our field there. We are now going to move on to Major League Baseball. So NFL in the books. Let's get to our number 2 sport, the MLB. And this was a fun one because I've got a good list, but if we're breaking it down to one face of Major League Baseball, Toph will kind of, reshuffle the order here. What do you think?
Well, I'm just going to start off the conversation with this. The Major League Baseball is a huge problem because this was hard for me. I didn't know who to pick. Obviously, there's guys in the conversation. Shohei Ohtani, Vladimir Guerrero, Mike Trout. There's guys in the conversation, but the MLB has continually disregarded this fact that they don't have a face. They tried to do some things with the Belly Yelly thing with Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich, and they tried to do some things, but it just was phony, and I didn't like it because all those commercials and all right, me next, and hitting dingers and stuff, and it's like these guys aren't the face of the MLB, and so that's where I'll start. I have some disdain towards the MLB because I don't know who it is. Now, if I had to pick someone, I would say Shohei Ohtani. But there is an issue, and, Stephen A. got blasted for this, so I'm not trying to say anything insensitive. But there is an issue for a American game having a Japanese star that, English is not his first language. It's not a knock on anything. It just is tough to have a face of a league where you can't promote and market him the same as you would someone else. Now, Shohei's talent far and above probably anyone in the league, based off the simple fact that this guy can be the best hitter and can be up there with one of the best pitchers in the league. I mean, that's Babe Ruth type stuff. We haven't seen that in decades. So, Shohei would be my pick, but this is tough for me because I just think the MLB has failed time and time again with giving someone that pedestal to then grow the game. And I'll just say this, a dark horse guy that is certainly not the face of the MLB, but a guy that I love for the MLB and the purpose of growing the game is Tim Anderson of the Chicago White Sox. I mean, that guy plays with absolute style and swag. He plays the game, I think, the new wave that people want to play it. Bat flips, talking trash, playing flashy, but still respecting the game in a way. And so, dark horse guy that's certainly not the face of the MLB because he just doesn't have the talent as some of these guys that we've mentioned, but I love some Timmy Anderson.
Okay. I mean, his numbers are pretty, average-wise, he's up there.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying he's not Shohei. He's not going to hit 60 home runs. He's not going to drive in a bunch of runs. Just that kind of thing. He's a great shortstop, plays the position pretty well, high average. But yeah, he doesn't have that type of talent. But I do. I give you that. He does have good stats. But I love some Tim Anderson. No doubt about it.
Okay, dark horse Tim Anderson. Max, your picks.
Shohei. I think, I feel like he is so much better than Babe Ruth. Just the fact that Babe Ruth was playing in the era he was where, everyone was smoking cigars and drinking a lot of beer. The guy was, 300 pounds. I mean, don't get me wrong, he hit some absolute bombs. But you got Shohei, who, for all the video game players out there, MLB The Show 22, he's on the cover. And in the intro, they actually do a pretty cool thing They like show him in his hometown and he's talking and stuff, and they have a translator and stuff. And yeah, I definitely understand Toph's point for sure. It's probably more difficult, but I hope that the MLB gives it their all, because what can you? This is like Bo Jackson on steroids. It seems like it's crazy. It's just crazy to me to watch him, because he can hit a ball 500 feet and then strike out 11 batters in a game and have a 3 ERA all year long. You don't see anything like this in sports. But yeah, it's definitely like, if it was another sport, I'm sure it would be the talk of everybody. But I probably can't go up to a kid at the school I work at and say, hey, do you know Shohei Ohtani? They probably wouldn't know. But if I asked them about Tom Brady or LeBron James, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know that person. So yeah, that's definitely the issue. But for us who can acknowledge and admire the game of baseball, it's pretty amazing to be living during this time of this sport and seeing him do what he can do. And I'm pretty sure I recall being at, I think, Shohei's debut against the A's, and he wasn't pitching, but he was hitting, and he got a single to right field, and I was like, oh, like that, that was a fluke swing, whatever. This guy's probably going to suck, because the A's have had some international guys who have just, like, sucked really bad. And I just, it's the Angels. I don't like the Angels. I wanted it to be a bad thing, but no, he could be one of the greatest of all time. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have much to add to it, because I'm on the Shohei train too. Again, it goes into that category of Tom Brady where we're saying you guys were not going to see anything like this. And it's interesting you mentioned Bo Jackson, because that's what I thought of. I thought of guys who played two sports. So now you're talking about Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders being the two big ones. This is a guy playing within the same sport, playing two very different positions in the sense that he's a hitter and he's a pitcher. It blows me away.
It would be like if Bo Jackson was running back and then he was a linebacker or something.
Right.
Like, which, you obviously, the guy literally ended his career because he was too strong and too fast when he got pulled down against the Bengals. Bo Jackson, I'm talking about. But yeah, Dad, that's a great point. It's obviously no one's taken away that two sports is any easy ride, but what Shohei is doing, he is a Hall of Fame caliber player, pitching and hitting. That's insane.
So we got Tom Brady and Shohei Ohtani as our two faces for the two sports. I do want to throw in there, I love me some Max Scherzer. I love Max Scherzer. Well, I'll tell you why I love Max Scherzer, because I love the way he plays the game.
Yeah.
He's all fire. And I know he's on the IL right now, but this guy, if I wanted a pitcher, he would be the guy. I would give him the ball. And I also want to give props to Aaron Judge. A healthy Aaron Judge is a fun player to watch. I look forward to Yankee highlights. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we gotta
crushes it.
Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say he turned down a extension from the Yankees and bet on himself so he could get a better contract this upcoming offseason. And he had like 17 homers and he's hitting like 315. So,
And then, I feel like we didn't give Vladdy enough credit in this segment. I mean,
and you know what's interesting about him? Yeah, and I agree with you. And we'll throw Fernando Tatis in there too. Guerrero's he's kind of struggling right now, so I think that's why there's not a lot of buzz about him. And obviously Tatis with the 60-day DL IL, in which he's getting ready to come back. These are the definite two faces of the future, no doubt.
Wait a second here.
Yeah.
When Tatis comes back, he might be my pick. I mean, the guy is swag incarnate. He's swag incarnate.
Yeah.
All the kids love
he's everything
Tatis.
you wanted.
All the kids love Tatis, dude. They're doing the hair flips and the slides and the bat flip. Max, we had a segment on Banter Bros about Tatis. I think we might have even said some of the language of face of the MLB type stuff. So that is true. Injuries do play an effect.
Yes. And can we give one shout out here, Dad? Speaking of the San Diego Padres, they do not have Tatis right now. Hasn't played all year. He's coming back maybe, like you said, pretty soon, hopefully. He had a freak injury in the offseason. Who's their coach?
Bob Melvin?
Oh, 3-time manager of the year. He has the Padres at 28-14, a game behind the LA Dodgers.
Yeah.
Bob Melvin is the greatest coach in the
shock.
MLB. Tatis is going to come back. They're going to win the West. They're going to go all the way this year. I love it.
You heard it here first. All right, let's finish up, guys. NBA.
Yeah. Okay.
Good stuff. I mean, there's definitely, some faces that you can hit on, and I'll let you start first, Max.
All right. Well, this seems sacrilege to me, but I am, LeBron James was okay. I've loved sports my whole life, but getting into LeBron and the NBA was like the coolest thing as a kid. I couldn't really believe what I was watching on TV. It was magnificent. His early days with the Cavaliers. I was devastated when they lost to the Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. Things like that. Like LeBron was the guy, and I think some would say LeBron is the face of the NBA, but
Kirk Langley
I can't say that anymore. Yes, of course, of course. I can't do it anymore. Today was a little bit of a wake-up call. I sent it in the Banter Bros group chat, and my caption was, "How can Steph Curry not be the face of the NBA?" And what was I referencing? Well, I was helping a little girl with homework, and one of the problems was Stephen Curry drops 24 points from three-point line. How many shots did Stephen Curry make?
Wow.
So, only 3-point shots. And I was just like, yeah, there you go. Steph Curry, man. These kids are getting math problems with his name in it. Okay? It's just, he's the guy. And he has 3 championships, right? 3. Mm-hmm. He lost 1, I think.
Yep.
Now it was still LeBron. Great.
No, he's lost 2.
They look like he's lost 2. Oh, because the Raptors. Can't forget. That was one of the greatest years too. Kawhi, that was awesome. But yeah, 3-2 in the finals. About to go back to the finals unless, the Mavs make history somehow and win 4 in a row. But yeah, Stephen Curry, every kid wants to shoot like him. Some think that's a bad thing. I think that's a great thing. Because if you really watch Stephen Curry, the guy puts in his work on the defensive side too. He's just small. That's his weakness. But it's a similar thing to Chris Paul where they put the work in on both sides of the ball handling, free throw shooting. It's not just the 3-point thing. Yes, he's the greatest of all time in that area, but Steph Curry's face of the NBA, and I think that's a great thing.
Okay, great answer. Toph, how about you?
So I hate to say it, but I agree with Max. I do.
Wow.
Yeah, I do. If we go back and you show the Carfax, as we like to say, I said if Giannis were to win this one, I said if Giannis were to win this one, I would have given him the crown. He didn't. Hard-fought battle with Boston, who is tied 2-2 with Miami right now, and as this podcast gets released, it could be a different story, but Giannis battled without his right-hand man. They went down. I'm not out on Giannis. I'm just saying I did say if, and that didn't happen. So I hate to say it, but I do agree with Max. When you really just think about it, he is who people know when you think about basketball. He has changed the game, probably more so than anybody in the recent past of, basketball history. And I did have a very cool opportunity to work for the LA Clippers during my time in college. And I worked for their social media team and got to go down on the floor and see these guys warm up. And the star power and allure of Steph Curry back then, which this was, I think, maybe 2017 or 2018, the 2018 season, I believe it was. It's just slim to none. The way people were attracted to him, you could feel it inside the arena that everybody's eyes were on him when he was there. And that is a crazy thing to experience up close like that. So it was an awesome time of life to see those stars. But, I mean, dude, people were absolutely locked into him when he was warming up. I mean, it was a spectacle. It was like a circus watching Steph Curry do his warm-up routine. And so from the warm-up routine to the three and changing the way the NBA has played the game now to now reinventing himself in a way, he's still Steph Curry, but I mean, he might take another group back to the finals. And yeah, like Max said, it does feel a little sacrilegious just because of where we're from. But I mean, you got to pay your dues. And this guy is the star and the face of the NBA. Now, who's next? I'll say Giannis. I think Steph will have, a 2-year run, maybe 2 or 3 more years where they're relevant. He's going to get old. He's going to be pretty nimble. And he'll probably be out of the NBA in the next, I would say, 4 or 5 years. He might be able to hang around and shoot some threes, but he's not going to be the Steph Curry that we know right now. Now, Giannis is up next, and then I would say if he can get to the promised land and win, Luka Doncic will be the next face of the NBA. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy to say again, it's kind of like the Shohei deal, 2 foreign guys, but that's the game that it is. David Stern, mad respect to him, he grew the game, right? He made it a global game with the things that he did. And so Giannis and Luka are a product of that, and I'd be happy to turn it over to those guys. And I don't think you can have 2 better guys to be able to handle the face of the NBA and to continue to grow the game and keep fans like us watching day in and day out.
Well, with those comments there, I really have nothing to add because I think you guys said it all. I had my list and didn't want to have to say Steph Curry, but it's interesting because as I think about him, it's like I don't like the antics, but then I go, you know what? You're allowed to do that if you can back it up. Yeah. And guess what? He backs it up.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, well, maybe I'd be that way too. Like, I say, hey, a little slice of humble pie, but he's just one of those guys. And you're right. It's just not in the game. It's what he does before the game, after the game. Everybody's always watching what he's doing. And we can see it now, with the endorsements. He's definitely getting more endorsements than anybody else out there. But Max, I go back to what you said, which I think is very interesting, is really if you need a litmus test, just ask the kids.
Yeah.
Hey, kids, who do you know in the NFL? And all 3 names that we said, those are the names, with the exception of the Shohei Ohtani. It would be interesting to see what they would say on the baseball front, but I know what it would be in California.
Probably Buster Posey.
Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford, Barry Bonds, Brandon Bell, Bruce Bochy, it would be all that. So that one I'm going to toss out the window. But really, when you think about it, it's about the kids and what they know. And then that tells you if that certain league is doing a good job. So you guys, these are great takes, great segments. So thank you very much. And you guys okay with doing this again next week?
Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to sign off. That's going to do it for another episode of Experience the Buzz. That's all I got for now. Talk to you next time. Goodbye, everyone. All right, well, there you have it. Another episode in the books. Again, my big thank you to Amy Varain of Amy Varain Weddings, completing episode number 88. And, of course, another segment with the Banter Bros talking about the faces of the different sports, a little bit of the U.S. Open. And, of course, don't forget, Toph is going to be a dad very soon. And, yes, that means I'm going to be a grandpa. We're going with Papa Buzz right now, but we'll see what happens from there. Of course, we come to you on a weekly basis. Would love for you to subscribe. And all that means is once you subscribe, whether it be on YouTube or on the audio platform, that will just give you that particular episode before anyone else gets it on a release. So thank you again for being here. We really do appreciate the support. Do want to throw in there episode number 100. We are looking at somewhere in August. We're going to have a date for you. Once we have that date and time secure, we'll let you know. And we are going to go live and celebrate our first 100 guests right here on the show. That's all I got for now. Talk to you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining Steve this week on Experience the Buzz. Steve would love to hear from you. Leave a review or contact Steve directly with any questions at scbuzzard@gmail.com. To see the other adventures of Steve Buzzard, be sure to visit buzzardball.com.